Okay, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather Lee and I work in the innovation team at Accuity. And I'm here today to talk to you about a little bit about innovation games, but mostly about a game called Buy a Feature, which is actually the only innovation game that I've played. And if you want to find out more about the whole collective innovation games, there's a really great lady called Katie Silvers who works at Reed Elsevier Innovation, and she's in charge of all of the tools and training for that team. So she's a really great contact to get in touch with. So today I'm going to talk to you about Buy a Feature, and but I wanted to spend the first part talking about innovation games and talking about why they are good for you to do in your business. And because when I first came across innovation games, I was a little bit cynical and was like, games, really? I work in the world of B2B. We don't play games, we have serious businesses. So let's just all check our cynicism at the door and carry on. So these games can be played with customers, or they can be played in person or online. There's a digital format of these. And also they can be played within the organisation as well, so you can do it amongst your teams internally. So why do games work? So research shows that human beings have been hardwired to express themselves and interact with each other through play. And play elevates humans to a state of high engagement, so they're tuned in versus tuned out. So if you're doing something more interactive, you obviously have to pay a lot more attention to what you're doing. So rules of the game set the constraints to engagement. They avoid chaos and they give you goals. So if you think about Monopoly, you've got your goals, you want to have the most property and the most money, but you also have your rules. So you need to don't pass go, sometimes you have to go to jail, etc., etc. So you have very clearly defined goals and rules. So collaboration is key to this. It invites inputs from many and creates opportunity to build off each other to take ideas in new directions. Okay, so this is what we don't want work to look like, maybe familiar. But through play, work can look more like this, and through collaboration, work can look more like this. So rather than one person just telling you stuff, then you have everybody's input and everyone's much more engaged. And also, what we also want to avoid is the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. It's all about collaboration and how we raise the voices of everyone in the business. So, Buy a Feature then. So what this game is about is you're given a set of features for it can be used on a product. When we did it at Accuity, we actually did it for red flags in trade finance, and I won't go into the details of that. But basically what it is, it's a prioritization task. So what happens is you give people some money, and they don't have all the money that they need in order to buy the product. So then they have to negotiate with so that everyone gets their own money, but they can't all collectively buy everything. So you have to negotiate between yourselves what you want to buy and why it's important to buy. So typically this is how it works. You create the feature list and set the prices. So the price might represent the development cost, customer value, time, and opportunity cost. When we played it, the things that we thought would be really difficult to build, we priced really highly. And customers collectively have 40 to 60% of money needed to buy all the features. And I wouldn't recommend using more than 8 to 10 features because it can become really confusing if there's just too much choice as well. And then the customers have to pool their money in order to buy all of the features. So this is just an example of the game that we played. So we had 8 different features that you could buy, or red flags that you could buy. And really this game was about finding out from the banks that we spoke to which of these were the most important. And some of these were features that we already had, such as sanctions and dual use goods screening, and other things were things we were thinking of developing, such as around the vessel data. And so one important thing to recognise here as well is the amount of money that you dish out to the team. So we thought we were going to have a team of 4 people. So we gave them I can't remember why, we gave them $270. I don't know how we got to that figure, but anyway, but you couldn't buy everything with that $270. But then at the events that we held, more people turned up than we thought. So sometimes there was 5 people in a group and some people needed $0.5. That didn't quite work out. So just be careful with how you price all of these things. Okay, so now I want to take you through some of the lessons that we learned from playing this game. First of all, games are a means to an end, and the real benefit was around the conversation that we had. So I think people were a bit sceptical when they started, but when we really got into negotiating the different features, it really came out, what people's issues were or opinions were about these different things. And after the game finished, we carried on having a really great conversation for another hour and a half. We kind of had to shut people up at the end of the game and say it was time to go. So it was a really good way of getting people to start talking and start giving their opinion. Also, through the conversation they have when they're negotiating which features they want to buy, it's really important to understand why they want to buy them. So another great tip is to take your marketing people into that room and hear why, and they can use it for their messaging around why that feature or product is important. So you really kind of unpick the thought process behind why people think certain things are more important than others. The timing of the game is important. So we did our buy a feature game kind of towards the end of our customer discovery program, and that meant that rather than learning lots of new stuff, we kind of validated what we knew already. So we knew certain features were important and we backed that up through the focus group or game that we played. So you might want to think about the timing of the game as well. So perhaps it would be better to, if you really want to accelerate your learning, to play a game like this at the start of the process rather than towards the end. Yeah, so again, pricing was really important. So if you make something really expensive, then it infers certain things to the players, and they might think, I don't want to buy it because it's too important. They probably don't think you've priced it as expensive because it's difficult to make. They just think, well, if it's too much, then I might not bother. And you really need to be careful about how you do that pricing. Therefore, you might not even want to do it in that way. There might be a different way of you prioritising them, but just be really conscious of what that price infers. Okay, and so what I wanted to talk about as well was that actually the games have ROI. So on the day, this is a quote in Salesforce from one of the banks that attended the session, and at the day, this guy was quite sceptical about the game, like it didn't really float his boat, but he kind of, because it's something new and different, and perhaps he just thought he was going to have a chat and not have to deal with monopoly money and all of these sorts of things. But he said he really got into it, and it really kind of made him see not just where the gaps were in his own bank, but also how that affects the industry in total. Anyway, so he went away from it, and it kind of kick-started their review of their trade finance processes. And I think hopefully today, actually, they should be coming in with a contract for $107,000 for our trade finance solution. So that whole game just really kick-started that mental thought process around, what they were doing, what gaps they might have, and what was important to them. So think of the games as something that can have ROI, as well as being, a fun and engaged way to talk about the topic that's important to you. And that is it. So, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Jeremy.
Just in terms of getting customers to the game, how did you do that? Did you just email them? Did you have a list of kind of friendly customers already?
Yeah, so a mixture of emailing. So we went through the Global Trade Review magazine and used some contacts from that, but then really getting the sales team on the phone and just saying, help us get some people along. So a mixture of different things. But we did emails from Salesforce and that kind of thing.
And what was the best in terms of getting actual results, in terms of getting people to turn up? Was it getting the salespeople to talk to their customers?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's just more, they have that relationship. It's a more human way of doing it. So.
Was there anyone who kind of was concerned about talking to you in front of the other competitors, so to say?
I guess this is kind of like the flaw of any group activity versus one-on-one interviews, is that you will always have the people who are happy to shout about what they think and will shout about it, and then you have the people who are much quieter and don't necessarily want to, put themselves forward, and you have to try and work out how to kind of coax those people into talking to you. But that is the same with any kind of focus group or group activity. But I don't think people gave us, particular, these banks are all competitors. They didn't give us any particular insights that they shouldn't have, but they probably won't until they're one-on-one with you in a very kind of private environment.
Did you run any other focus groups or any other activities apart from this game?
So we did 57 interviews, and we sent a survey with the help of the customer insight team to over 8,000 people as well, as part of our customer discovery work. Yeah.
I think the focus group itself, it ended up being really collaborative sort of discussions. So a lot of these customers are facing the same types of challenges. So they seem quite happy to talk about some of the issues they're facing as an industry.
Yeah.
And you ultimately end up with a scenario where you get the customers up front talking about how they would design the product to best meet their needs. So it was a really successful session.
Yeah. But then in trade finance, I think the banks have a very kind of us banks versus them regulators attitudes. They're all kind of, we're on this side of the fence, so they're kind of happier to collaborate in that way. Yeah.
These product features that you mentioned that should be about 7, 8, were they backed up by what customers really needed, or were those picked up by the product managers thinking that they should be the product features?
I guess it came from product, but the product is so closely aligned with the market. It's things that we kind of thought would be, the right things to put in front of the customer.
Mm-hmm. And were they a mix of, must-haves and good-to-haves?
Yeah. So one of the red flags that we had was under and over invoicing, which this is about the price of goods that are used in a transaction, and it's kind of, we think it's almost like an impossible task, because to know whether the price of something in a transaction is the normal price, unless it's a commodity, of course, is very difficult, because a t-shirt, it could be Primark or Prada. Should it be £2 or £200? So how do you tell what the average price is? So that was kind of something that we put up there, knowing that we probably couldn't build it, so it was really expensive for them to buy, but also working out whether or not they would find it worthwhile buying regardless of the price. So,
was there any feedback from customers saying, oh, there's a feature that I want and I would buy, but it's not on the list, or there was nothing like that?
I can't remember.
Well, we did have that discussion because they were there for about
we did ask.
3 hours.
Yeah, we had a long chat.
The game bit was probably an hour of that, and that was sort of top to tail with a discussion about some broader context about some of the challenges they're facing, and then we also asked for their spontaneous reaction to other features that they felt maybe were important that were missing. But a lot of this came from your discovery interview, so you were going into it knowing what sort of key areas were.
Were they all similar roles and personas, or you had like a mix of different personas?
I think we had about 3 or 4 different types of people in the room. So we had.
Did they have like similar tasks, or they had very different approaches?
So some people were more managerial, and some people were the very hands-on operational people. Yeah, but it was good to have both perspectives as well. Yeah. Kevin.
This seems really interesting and a good way of going about tackling product innovation in other markets. So just any thought that this wouldn't work in other markets, or do you think it would apply across the board?
I think it's quite adaptable, so I think it would work in any market. You don't have to play it in a certain way. You can make it very particular to your own needs. And as I say, this wasn't, necessarily about the product, but more about features. I don't know. It's got different interpretations, as with all of these games, I think. I can't see. I mean, it's always worth trying as well. Okay.